The phone rang at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. I was in my home office, reviewing quarterly projections for a distribution deal that would either make my year or blow up in my face. The caller ID showed the name of the small convenience store near my son's school that I answered on the second ring. Mr. Harrison? It wasn't the store owner. It was Ethan. Dad, I got in trouble today. I set down my pen. Tell me. I forgot my thing. This morning, I was running late, and I just forgot. Did they give you another detention? Silence on the line, the kind of silence that carried weight. No, Dad. His voice shifted. Quieter now, Ms. Hartwell said. She said because I was the only one in the class who forgot, I needed to pay for everyone else's, to make up for breaking the rules. I blinked. Pay for what, exactly? She said I had to buy 60 new 1.1 for every kid in the class, and if I didn't, she'd call you and tell you to do it. She said it was collective responsibility, and that I needed to learn that my actions affect the whole group. I sat back in my chair. The distribution projections were suddenly very far away. 60. Yes, sir. And she told you this in front of the class? Yes, sir. Everyone heard. She made me stand up and said it out loud. And what did you say to her? I asked. I said, okay. Okay. I said, okay, I'll buy them. And then she said I should buy even more in case anyone else forgot. She said maybe I should get enough for the whole school. She was laughing when she said it. Like she thought it was funny, but I just said okay again. This woman was a bully, a teacher who'd found a safe, sanctioned way to humiliate children and extract compliance. She played this game before, and I knew it the way I knew the smell of a bad deal. There was a pattern here, a well-worn path she'd walked more than once. The language she'd used, collective responsibility, affecting the group, that wasn't a punishment. That was performance, a way to make herself feel large by making someone else feel small. She thought she was in control. She thought she'd set the terms. Dad, are you still there? I'm here, Ethan. I kept my voice steady. Now listen to me. I need you to tell me exactly everything she said. Every word you can remember. Start from the beginning. He told me about the way she'd made him stand while she walked around his desk, touching his things. The way she'd said, I'm giving you a chance to make this right. Like she was doing him a favor. And then he told me about the other part. The part he almost didn't mention. Some of the kids laughed. A couple of them. But most of them just looked at the floor. Nobody said anything. Except James. He whispered sorry when I sat back down. I knew James. His mother was a single parent who worked nights at a diner. James wore hand-me-downs and always brought the same plain sandwich for lunch. He was the kind of kid who knew exactly what it felt like to be singled out. The fact that he'd whispered an apology told me everything I needed to know about the atmosphere in that classroom. Ethan, did you feel like you did something wrong? He hesitated. The silence told me more than his words would. I forgot my thing, he said finally. That's against the rules. I did break the rules. Did you do it on purpose? No. Did you harm anyone? No. Did you refuse to follow a safety rule? Or disrupt the class? I forgot. Exactly. I let the word hang. You made a mistake, a small one, and instead of helping you fix it, she turned it into a production. She wanted you to feel like a bad person. That's not discipline, Ethan. That's theater. He didn't answer. I could hear him processing. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to go home and do your homework, you're going to have dinner, and you're going to let me handle this. When you go to school tomorrow, if Ms. Hartwell asks you about the neckerchiefs, you tell her your father is taking care of it. That's all you say. You understand? Yes, Dad. Good. I love you. I'll see you at 6. I love you too, Dad. He hung up. I stayed in my chair for a long moment, the phone still warm against my ear. Then I pulled out my laptop and started making calls. The guy I called was named Marcus Webb. He ran a supply operation out of a warehouse in Trenton. Nothing flashy, but he got things done. He answered on the second ring, same as Ethan had. Mark, been a minute. You need something? Need a bulk order, I said. 6,000 pieces, maybe more, red neckerchiefs, standard grade school spec poly cotton blend, 45 by 45, hemmed edges. I need the cheapest wholesale you can get me, and I need it delivered by tomorrow morning. There was a pause. Tomorrow morning? That's a tight window. I know. I'm willing to pay for expedite. 6,000? That's a lot of neckerchiefs. Another pause. You starting a franchise or something? Just get me the price. The minimum for that price bracket is 10,000, Marcus said. I can get you 12 per case. That gives you a clean number. 80 cases. You want to round up? I can bump it. 80 cases, I repeated. The number felt right. It had mass. Weight. The truck will be heavy, he warned. You sure you have a place to unload? I know exactly where it's going. I gave him the address, the school, attention line, Ms. Jennifer Hartwell, grade 2. You want a note or anything with it? Yeah, put the manifest on top. Make sure it's addressed to her directly. And include my business card with the order confirmation, the one with the company logo. Done. He paused. You want to tell me what this is about, or should I just assume it's some kind of weird flex? Let's call it education, I said. I'm teaching someone a lesson. I hung up, transferred the funds, then I sat back and looked at my office wall, where I kept a framed print of an old photograph, MY grandfather, standing in front of his first delivery truck. The caption underneath read, "Never let anyone else set the price." I picked Ethan up at 6, just like I promised. He was quiet during the ride home, not selling, just processing. I let him sit with it. After dinner, I pulled him aside. Tomorrow, I said. When you get to school, do what I told you. If Ms. Hartwell asks, tell her I've taken care of it. Nothing else. She'll ask where they are. She will, and you'll tell her they're coming. Say it the same way you'd say the sky is blue. No emotion, no explanation, just facts. He looked at me with those dark eyes, so much like his mother's. Is something bad going to happen? No, I said. Something fair is going to happen. There's a difference. Fair means everyone gets what they deserve. Good people, bad people, all of it. The system catches up with everyone eventually. He nodded, not quite convinced, but he trusted me. That was the foundation I'd built over 7 years of parenting, the absolute, unshakable certainty that his father would always be in his corner. I stayed up late that night, not because I was worried, because I was working. I pulled up the school's website. I found the parent handbook. I reviewed the school board policies on teacher conduct, disciplinary procedures, financial transactions involving parents. I wanted to know exactly where the lines were drawn and exactly how far over them Jennifer Hartwell had stepped. Then I started searching. Public records were easier to find than most people realize. The county court system had all its filings online, searchable by name. School board meeting minutes were posted on the district website, archived going back a decade. Local parent forums were gold mines of anonymous complaints, and I knew how to read between the lines. It took me 3 hours to build a picture. Jennifer Hartwell had been teaching at the same school for 12 years that I end that time. There were patterns. Complaints about necessary classroom contributions that never appeared on the official supply list. Parents who'd been pressured to pay for enhancements that never materialized. A handful of families who'd pulled their kids out of her class mid-year, citing philosophical differences. No formal complaints. Nothing that made it to the board level. Just a trail of exhausted parents who'd quietly paid and moved on, grateful to have survived another year. I found a post from 3 years ago, buried in a parent's Facebook group. IT was written by someone who'd since moved out of state. The post was short and carefully worded, clearly paranoid about being identified. Can anyone tell me if this is normal? Our teacher keeps asking for money for special supplies. She never sends receipts. When I asked, she told me I was being unreasonable and that all the other parents were happy to contribute, were already paying tuition, but we can't afford extra like this. I asked this aloud. The comments were sympathetic but vague. Nobody wanted to name names. I had enough. I closed my laptop at midnight and went to check on Ethan. He was asleep, his face peaceful in the dim glow of his nightlight. The only sign that anything was wrong was the small, folded piece of paper on his bedside table. I picked it up. IT was a drawing to a stick figure, me, apparently, standing in front of a giant truck. The truck was drawn with meticulous care, all 8 wheels clearly visible. Around it, tiny red shapes fluttered like flags. Ethan had drawn the neckerchiefs. I felt something twist in my chest. Not anger this time. Something more protective, more primal. The cost of the order didn't matter to me, but the cost to him, the humiliation, the fear, the weight of being singled out, that mattered. That had to be answered. I put the drawing back in its exact spot and went to bed. Morning came faster than I expected. I drove Ethan to school myself, which I rarely did. He was quiet again, but there was a different quality to his silence. Less anxious, more watchful. We pulled up to the drop-off zone. I put the car in park and turned to face him. Remember what I said. Just tell her you're handling it. Good. And Ethan? He looked at me. Whatever happens today, it's not your fault. You made a mistake. Everybody makes mistakes. What happened after that? That's on her. You got that? Yes, Dad. He unbuckled and picked up his backpack. Before he climbed out, he paused. Is she going to get in trouble? Ms. Hartwell. He nodded. That depends, I said, on whether she's learned the same lesson she wanted to teach you. Actions have consequences. For everyone. He didn't ask any more questions. He got out of the car and walked into the school building, his backpack slightly crooked on his shoulders. I watched until he disappeared through the doors. Then I made another call. To Marcus Webb. What's my ETA? Truck's already moving. Should hit the school by 8:15 at the latest. Dispatcher says it's a 20-footer, full cargo. Driver's got the manifest and knows to look for the name on the receiving line. Good. I started the engine. Tell him to make a scene. I want that truck parked right in front of the main entrance. I want it loud. Mark, what exactly is this about? Someone tried to set the terms of a deal I wasn't part of, I said. Now I'm correcting the record. I hung up and drove home, and point being at the school for the show, if I was there, it would look personal. The whole point was to make it look like paperwork, like an order being processed. Like a teacher's request, filled exactly as specified. I set my coffee down on my desk and waited. The call came at 8:37. It was the school's secretary. Her voice was strained, a little frantic. Mr. Harrison, this is Teresa from the front office at Sunshine Elementary. Teresa. I kept my tone pleasant. Everything okay? There's a truck at the school. A very large truck. The driver says he's delivering an order for Ms. Hartwell. He has your name on the manifest. Yes, that's correct. My son came home yesterday with instructions from Ms. Hartwell about a purchase. I handled the order personally. Is there a problem? A problem? She laughed nervously. Mr. Harrison, there are cases of boxes everywhere. They're taking up the entire entrance and I have parents trying to drop off their kids and the whole path is blocked. I kept my voice calm, almost curious. The shipment should be complete. I asked for the full order to be delivered by morning, like she requested. 80 cases, if I recall correctly. 80. She choked on the number. Ms. Hartwell said my son should provide enough for the entire school. So I did the math point 2,800 students. Give or take it, we added some extra for contingency. The invoice should have the exact total. It's addressed to Ms. Hartwell for verification. Silence. Then a different voice on the line, older, more authoritative. Mr. Harrison, this is Paul Thornton, the principal. Principal Thornton, good morning. Could you please come to the school? I think we need to discuss this. I'm not sure there's anything to discuss, I said. My son followed his teacher's instructions. I fulfilled the order exactly as requested. I have the purchase order on file. If there's any confusion, I'd suggest checking with Ms. Hartwell directly. She initiated the transaction. I understand that, but the logistics here are... Principal Thornton, I'm a businessman. When someone gives me an order, I fill it. That's what good business looks like. If there's a problem with the quantity, perhaps MS. Hartwell can explain what she actually meant, but I need to get back to work. Have a pleasant morning. I hung up. Then I sat back and took a long sip of coffee. They'd send someone to pick Ethan up from class. They'd interrogate him, probably they'd try to find an angle where this was somehow my fault, or his, or a misunderstanding. They'd scramble to contain the damage. But the truck was there. The boxes were there. The manifest had Jennifer Hartwell's name on it, plain as day. The first domino had fallen. I got the second call at 11:15, this time from my ex-wife, Donna. She'd heard something through the parent grapevine, a version of the story that had already started mutating. Someone's mother had seen the truck. Someone's friend had posted about it in a private group. The rumor was that my son had bought out an entire warehouse. What did you do? Donna asked, her voice tight. She lived in Ohio now, clear across the country. Our split had been mutual, but she never really understood my approach to things. She thought I went overboard. She thought I overreacted. Ethan got punished for forgetting his neckerchief, I said. The teacher made an example of him in front of 30 other kids. She told him to buy 60 replacements, then told him to supply the whole school. So I supplied the whole school. Mark, that's insane. That's making a scene. That's the point. You're going to cause a problem for Ethan. The other parents are going to think you're crazy. The teachers are going to be intimidated. He'll be isolated. Isolated. I set down my coffee. He was already isolated. Donna, he sat in that classroom yesterday while everyone watched him get humiliated. The teacher turned him into a symbol. The only kid who wasn't perfect. I'm just making sure everyone knows he was following a direct order. From a teacher who's going to make his life hell. She's not going to have a job by the end of the week, Donna. I made sure of that. Silence. Then softer. What do you mean? I found her paper trail last night. 3 years of complaints. Patterns. This isn't the first time she's done this. I have enough to get her fired. Maybe more than fired. She didn't respond immediately. When she did, her voice had shifted from anger to something more complicated. Unease, maybe. Or concern. You really think you can just dismantle a teacher? Using a truck full of neckerchiefs. Not just the neckerchiefs, I said. That's the opening. The real work is still ahead. But the truck is the part that gets their attention. You can't ignore a truck. You can't pretend a truck full of boxes doesn't exist. IT sits there, physical proof of what happened. You're scary sometimes, you know that? I'm thorough, I said. There's a difference. She sighed. Let me know what happens. And Mark, be careful with Ethan. He's the one who has to live with the aftermath. I know, I said. That's exactly why I'm doing this. We hung up. I looked at my phone for a long moment, then set it aside and went back to work. The third call came at 3:02 p.m. Ethan. Dad. His voice was strange. Not scared. Not angry. Something else. Something that sounded almost like awe. What happened, bud? The principal came to get me about an hour after the truck arrived. He took me to his office. Miss Hartwell was there. She looked really weird, like she was about to cry. And there were 2 other people there, I think they were from the school board. What did they ask you? They asked what happened yesterday. I told them everything, just like you said. And I showed them the paper she gave me, the one with the order on it. Good. What did they say? They asked if I understood what the order meant. I said yes. And then Mr. Thornton told Miss Hartwell that she was suspended, effective immediately. He said there would be an investigation. I closed my eyes, a small, satisfied exhale. Did she say anything? She tried to say I was lying. She said I made it up, but James was there, too, and he told them what she said about buying enough for the whole school. He remembered all of it. He said it exactly the same way I did. James, the kid who whispered sorry. And then Mr. Thornton said they didn't need to ask any more questions. He said he'd be in touch with you. A pause. Dad, are you mad at me? No, I'm proud of you. You told the truth. You did exactly what you should have done. Everyone saw the truck, he said, his voice rising slightly. Everyone's talking about it. Some of the kids think I'm rich. One of them said, I bought the whole town. You just told them what your teacher asked you to do. That's all the explanation anyone needs. What's going to happen to her? I paused. The question deserved an honest answer. I don't know, but whatever has happened, you weren't wrong. You made a mistake, and she used it to hurt you. The consequences of that are hers, not yours. There was a long silence. Then Ethan spoke again, quieter now. I'm glad you're my dad. Me too, I said. I'm glad you're my son. Now go home. Do your homework. We'll talk more tonight. I ended the call and leaned back in my chair. The truck had done its job, but the real work, the cleanup, the fallout, the after had only just begun. #Chapter 2, The Ripple. I picked Ethan up from school that afternoon, just like any other day, but nothing about the afternoon felt normal. He climbed into the car with a kind of stillness I hadn't seen before. Not fear, not excitement, something more like waiting, like he knew something was coming but couldn't name it. James came over to me at lunch, he said as I pulled out of the drop-off zone. He said his mom told him to stay close to me today. She said I might need a friend. James seems like a good kid. He is. Ethan paused, but some of the others, they looked at me different, like I was dangerous, like I might get them in trouble, too. That's because they don't understand what happened. They only saw the truck. They heard the rumors. Nobody explained it to them in a way that made sense. Should I explain it? No. You don't owe anyone an explanation. You just keep showing up, being yourself. People will figure it out on their own. He nodded, unconvinced. I couldn't blame him. At his age, the opinions of his classmates carried more weight than any adult reassurance, but the only way through this was forward. I couldn't protect him from the social fallout. I could only give him the tools to manage it. When we got home, I made dinner. Grilled chicken, rice, vegetables. The same meal I'd made 100 times before. Routine was important. Routine told him that the world hadn't ended. After dinner, while Ethan did his homework, I called Paul Thornton. The principal answered on the first ring. Mr. Harrison, I was expecting your call. Tell me where we stand. He took a breath. I could hear the tension in it, the carefully measured tone of a man who knew he was walking a tightrope. The district superintendent came by this afternoon. They're already starting the investigation. Ms. Hartwell has been placed on administrative leave, pending a full review. We've collected statements from several students, including your son and James Whitfield. I've also begun reviewing the financial records she submitted for classroom supplies over the past 3 years. And what have you found? A longer pause. Enough to know this isn't isolated. There are discrepancies, receipts that don't match up, requests for contributions that were never reflected in the official budget. I can't say for certain yet, but the pattern is there. Good. I want to see the full report when it's ready. That's not standard procedure. I'm not asking for standard procedure. Paul, I'm telling you what's going to happen. I've already documented my side of the transaction. I have the order manifest, the invoice, the email correspondence with my supplier. All of it clearly shows that Ms. Hartwell initiated this. If the school tries to brush this under the rug, I'll go to the school board. If the school board tries to brush it under the rug, I'll go to the local news that I've already drafted the press release. Silence. Then a very quiet exhale. You understand that this will cause a lot of disruption. For everyone. For your son, most of all. I'm counting on it. Disruption is the only thing that forces change. The system that protected her for 12 years is the same system that let her bully children without consequence. You can't fix that with a closed-door meeting. You have to bring it into the light. Mr. Harrison. Mark. Call me Mark. We're going to be working together on this. Mark. He sounded exhausted. What exactly do you want? Accountability. Full transparency. The process that ensures this never happens again. I've already started drafting a proposal for a parent oversight committee. I want a seat at the table, and I want a mechanism for parents to report issues without fear of retaliation. That's the foundation. And if I say no, then I'll find a way to do it without you. But it'll be a lot messier, and I suspect you'd rather be part of the solution than the target of the next truckload. He didn't respond immediately. When he did, his voice had shifted. Less defensive, more resigned, but with a hint of something that might have been grudging respect. I'll put together a meeting with the superintendent. First thing Monday. You'll have your seat. Thank you, Paul. I appreciate your cooperation. I hung up. Ethan had come into the kitchen during the tail end of the conversation, his homework still in his hand. He'd clearly heard part of it. Is the principal mad at you? No. He's doing his job, and I'm doing mine. What's your job? I thought about it. The question deserved more than a throwaway answer. Right now, my job is to make sure that what happened to you doesn't happen to anyone else. That's what it means to be a father. You stand up for your family, and you try to leave things better than you found them. He processed that. Then he went back to his homework. Friday came faster than expected. The school had canceled all of Ms. Hartwell's classes for the rest of the week. A substitute teacher, a nervous-looking woman named Mrs. Chun, had taken over. She spoke softly and kept her head down, clearly briefed to avoid any controversy. I dropped Ethan off in the morning and watched him walk into the building. He was braver than he knew. His shoulders were straight. His steps were steady. At 10 a.m., my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Mr. Harrison, this is James's mother, Diane Whitfield. Could we talk? I think I have some information that might help you. Call me when you have a moment. I called immediately. I've been wanting to reach out since the truck, she said. Her voice was warm but tired. I know James told Ethan he was sorry that I told him to say that, what she did to your boy. That wasn't right. But she did it to other kids too, I know. She did it to James last year, made him stay after school and clean the classroom because he was late with his work. He was 6, Mr. Harrison. She kept him there for 2 hours while the other kids went home. How did you handle it? I didn't. I thought if I made a fuss, she'd make it worse. So I just let it happen. I told James it was wrong, but we couldn't do anything about it. I was scared. That's a normal reaction. Normal, maybe, but I should have done more. When I heard what she did to Ethan, I realized I wasn't the only one. There were a dozen of us, maybe more, all keeping quiet because we were afraid of her. And now you're the one who actually did something. Can you connect me with those other parents? She paused. I already have it. I've been talking to them since yesterday. We're putting together a document. Everything we remember, dates, amounts, incidents that we want to make sure she never does this again. A document, corroborating witnesses, physical evidence. This was exactly what I needed. Send it to me when it's ready. I'll make sure it gets to the right people. I will. And Mr. Harrison, thank you for doing what the rest of us were too afraid to do. Thank Diane. You're doing the real work now. We hung up. I sat back and looked out the window. The clouds were breaking apart, patches of blue starting to show through. By Saturday, the document had arrived in my inbox. It was 12 pages long, painstakingly compiled by Diane and 3 other mothers. They'd gone through old receipts, bank statements, emails, and text messages. They'd reconstructed a timeline of Jennifer Hartwell's demands over the past 4 years. The totals were staggering. Field trip fees that didn't cover the actual cost of the trips. Book orders with markups that would make a used car salesman blush. Classroom improvement solicitations that never produced any visible improvements. Small, steady increments of pressure, applied so slowly that none of them had recognized the pattern until they saw the whole thing laid out together. Added up, they collectively paid well over $4,000 to Ms. Hartwell's unofficial slush fund, not all at once, not in ways that would trigger immediate suspicion, but steadily, relentlessly over the course of years. And that was just the financial side. The document included accounts of emotional manipulation, favoritism, and public shaming. Stories of children who'd been made to stand in the corner for disrespect. Stories of kids who'd been denied bathroom breaks. Stories of parents who'd been verbally dressed down during parent-teacher conferences for failing to comply. The picture that emerged was of a woman who'd built a small empire of control, one small power play at a time, and she'd gotten away with it because everyone assumed it was just bad luck. Just that teacher being difficult, just something you had to tolerate until your kid moved on to the next grade. I printed the document and highlighted the most damning entries. Then I sent it to Paul Thornton with a single line. Here's your investigation. Sunday morning, I got a call I hadn't expected. It was a blocked number. I let it ring twice, then answered. Mr. Harrison? The voice was thin, strained. A woman's voice. Please don't hang up. It's Jennifer Hartwell. I didn't respond. I let her wait. I know you have every reason to be angry with me. I made a terrible mistake. I let my frustration get the better of me, and I took it out on your son. I'm deeply sorry. I've been a teacher for 12 years, and I've never... You've been doing this for 12 years, I said, cutting her off. I have the receipts, that I have the statements from other parents, that I have everything, Jennifer. Every single extortion, every humiliation, every power play, it's all in a document that's already sitting on the superintendent's desk. Silence. Then, very quietly, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. You meant to control them. There's a difference. You didn't care if you hurt them, as long as you got what you wanted. You treated children, my son, as leverage. You traded their emotional well-being for compliance. I'm going to lose my job. I'm not interested in your job. I'm interested in justice. What happens to you is a consequence of what you did, not of what I did. She started crying. Real or fake, I couldn't tell. It didn't matter. Please, I have a daughter. She's 12. She needs me to provide for her. You have a son. You understand what that means. I understand that my son is 7 years old, and he came home from school feeling like a bad person because you needed to make an example of him. I understand that you've done that to dozens of other children over the years, and I understand that if I let you off the hook, you'll do it again. Oh no, Jennifer, and I don't feel sorry for you. I feel sorry for your daughter. She'll learn that actions have consequences. That's a lesson you should have taught her long ago. I hung up. My hands were steady. My voice hadn't wavered, but something inside me had shifted. A door had closed. I'd spent so long being the rational one, the calm one, the man who collected facts and made strategic decisions. But this was different. This was personal, and I had to accept that. I was angry. Not the hot, explosive kind that made you do stupid things. The cold, steady kind that burned clean and left nothing but clarity. Jennifer Hartwell had tried to break my son. She'd failed. But she'd also shown me exactly how fragile the system was, how easily it could be weaponized by someone with bad intentions. I wasn't going to stop with her. I was going to fix the system. Monday morning, I walked into the superintendent's office. The building was a squat, beige structure on the edge of town, surrounded by the kind of meticulously maintained landscaping that screamed public funds. I'd worn a navy suit and a simple tie. Professional, but not confrontational. The superintendent, a round-faced man named Gerald Powers, greeted me with a handshake that was slightly too firm. Paul Thornton was already there, sitting in a chair against the wall, looking like he'd aged 5 years in the last 3 days. Mr. Harrison, Powers said, gesturing to a seat across from his desk. Thank you for coming in. We've reviewed the materials you provided. And we've confirmed the patterns. Ms. Hartwell's financial records do not match the expenditures she submitted for approval. The discrepancies are significant. We've already retained an outside auditor to conduct a full forensic review. That's a start. He leaned back in his chair. But this is not a simple issue. Ms. Hartwell has been with the district for over a decade. She has a record of satisfactory performance. Some of the allegations you've raised are unverified. Some may be exaggerations. I pulled the document out of my briefcase and slid it across the desk. 12 pages point 4 years of detailed accounts, names, dates, amounts that I have multiple parents willing to testify under oath. If you want to treat this as a disciplinary matter, that's your choice. But if you drag your feet, I will make sure that every parent in this district reads every single line, and I have contacts at 3 local news outlets who've already expressed interest in the story. Powers picked up the document and flipped through it. His face went through a series of subtle changes. Discomfort, anger, finally, a kind of grim acceptance. What do you want? An independent investigation, not internal, not swept under the rug. I want a third-party firm to review everything. I want the results made public. I want a clear policy for parent complaints that doesn't go through the same chain of command that enabled this behavior for years. That's a tall order. Tall orders get filled when they have to be, and you have to be, Gerald, because if you don't, I'll do it myself. And I'll do it publicly. You don't want that. Trust me. He set the document down carefully, as if it might combust. I'll put together a proposal and I'll present it to the board at their next meeting, but this is going to be difficult. There are politics involved. People who've known Jennifer for years, who don't want to believe she'd do something like this. People believe what they need to believe. The truth has a way of surfacing regardless. He nodded slowly. I'll get back to you by the end of the week. On the way out of the building, Paul Thornton caught up with me. Mark, I want to say something. I turned to face him. I knew Jennifer for 12 years. I worked with her. I thought I knew her, and I missed all of it. I should have seen the signs. I should have investigated the rumors. I didn't, and I'm sorry. Apology accepted, but I don't need your guilt. I need your commitment. What exactly does that mean? It means when this is over, you have to make sure it stays over. No backseating. No forgetting. No letting the next Jennifer Hartwell slip through the cracks. You're the principal. You set the tone. He held my gaze for a long moment. Then he extended his hand. You have my word. We shook. That evening, I told Ethan what had happened. He listened quietly, his eyes fixed on me the whole time. When I was done, he asked a single question. Are we going to be okay? I reached across the table and took his hand. We're already okay. Everything else is just the world catching up with what we already know. He nodded, and for the first time in days, I saw something like peace cross his face. You're the best dad, he said. I'm just your dad. That's all I need to be.